Oh, hello there. Hi. I didn't see you. I'm TC, and welcome to another episode of This Game Stinks. This week, in video games, we are going to be putting a NES classic game, Contra, up against the Stink-O-meter. We're going to see what it can do. I mean, this game, I know I was talking Mega Man was one of my favorite games last week of all time. This game is probably my favorite game for this console. So let's get into it. All right, and we are back. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Fantastic Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that listen. I do appreciate you. Got to talk to my mom for a little bit on the phone. She doesn't live here. She lives up in another state, so got to talk to her for a little bit. Then got to hang out with the fiance's parents for a little while. You know, had a nice little lunch with them. And it was a good little Sunday. I had to rush back, try to film this episode this week. It's been a very busy week and weekend for me. Ooh. So trying to get this episode finished and trying to beat Contra this weekend was a task that was very, very difficult. Let me tell you. Many of you, I'm sure, if you're listening to this episode, have played the game, have had struggles with the game, and maybe broken a game, this game in half, possibly. Physically, if you had that cartridge. This game is the most beautiful, wonderful, fun, fulfilling, fantastic, frustrating, awful piece of trash ever made. There is such a divide on this game. I've noticed, even kind of talking a little bit about showing some Contra things on my page, talking with some of my friends about the game. This game is a true love-hate relationship just because of the difficulty. It is a very difficult game. I grew up playing this game, so I know it like the back of my hand. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are in the same boat as me. They know this game and they can blaze through it. However, none of my friends are those people, and no one that I know personally are those people. So maybe it actually is a very difficult game that only a couple people really have picked up. I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen clips of other people doing walkthroughs that are great, but the game, for me, playing it isn't too bad. I can't just beat it willy-nilly. I have to actually be playing it a bunch to be able to just run through it straight away. But funny story, actually, the first time I picked it up to start doing my research on this game and getting really into it again to do this episode, I almost ran through it the first try. I think I got all the way to level 7 before I had any difficulty. I didn't even lose a life until level 5. It was crazy. You would have think that I put that old famous code in there, got all those lives and made it that far, but nope. I was crushing it first try, and that's the farthest I've gotten now, because I just get frustrated. You know how the old games go. The frustration sets in, and you just want to blaze through that level, but it's not going to work, because remember, in these games, especially this game, patience is key. And that's actually going to run me right into our first point on the Stink-O-meter this week. Guys, remember, quick review. I know you're listening to the show because why wouldn't you be? But remember that Stink-O-meter. If you can get that one coin noise in the coin sequence, the game doesn't really stink that bad. It's as close to perfect as possible. But if the game can go through the entire sequence of coins all the way to the end, that's 8 coin sounds, the game stinks. To mention, I just talked 2 minutes about how much I love this game. So please understand what we're talking about here. We're just talking about why this game stinks. Why you'll complain to your friends why this game stinks. Why it gave you issues one day or 1 week or back in the day in 1987. We're just basically talking about basic annoying things that all games have. You can't tell me any game that doesn't have any points that you can make against it. With that being said, the Stink-O-meter this week is brought to you by Sklobo. Sklobo is a clothing company that is based out of Seattle. You can find them on Instagram. They run a great page here. It's Sklobo, SCLOBO on Instagram. You can also check them out on sklobo.com. That's SCLOBO.com. They got some great gear, guys, for gamers. Check it out. Some awesome stuff. If you use the code ThisGameStinks, you'll also get another 15% off. And just go check the store out. So back to the show, back to the first point. You need to be patient. And I'm pretty sure I said this last week in Mega Man. See, guys, that's how much I remember things. I don't even remember the points that I made in my previous games, because they're just basically the points that I make as I'm playing them that week. I could probably play again next week and think of another 8 things that maybe annoy me about the game that week. But this week, Contra, and probably every old game, all you retro gamers out there know it, you got to have patience to play these old games. If you don't have the patience, it's not going to be a successful day. You cannot rush through. You cannot. It's just, you can't have gotten game over about 6 times, or you're restarting the level for like your 9th time or so. And you can't just try to run through, jump past people. You got to still take your time like you did the first time through. That's the only way you're going to get the good drops. That's the only way you're going to get in the best position to kill every enemy. You got to do every level by the book. Running and gunning can, of course, work every so often, beat the game very quickly, but mostly this game is being very patient and knowing exactly where all the enemies are. And remember, this game is a side scroller and a bitch of a one, because enemies just appear as you're jumping, and you either have to shoot them before you land, or duck and fall into a hole, or hit them and die, or get shot by whatever they're shooting at you. So when I say patience is key, sometimes you might even want to do a little roll jump forward first, maybe tuck back, see what's around the corner, and ready to come at you. Usually right when you land, there's always something about to try to get you. Game patience is, of course, a thing that's going to be very consistent with all these games. Ever, honestly. Most games you need to be patient. I don't know, there's a lot of run and guns games you don't need to be patient, but I just mean in these side scrollers, a lot of times you can't just rush and fly through the levels unless it's like Mario and you've played it 1,000 million times. Anyways, this all brings me to my next point, that the game is very, very difficult, and you really need to put the time in and need to know what you're doing to be able to do well. Unless you got the old famous Konami code. You know what I'm talking about? Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. Start, I guess, just starts the game. I'm not really sure if that is part of the code or not. I remember having hit select start, playing with my brother when we were kids trying to beat it. And honestly, I think the code was there so that you could practice. You needed to be able to have those 30 lives so that you could get through a level and know where everything was, so that when you only had 2 lives, you could make it to the end. There's no saving here. So you get, I think, 3 shots with 3 lives each, and there's no checkpoints either. So if you make it all the way to the boss, if you die at the boss, you're going back to the beginning. You know, that old fun NES type game. And I really think, and I noticed this the most when I was playing it this past weekend, I think it gets harder if you're doing better. I really do. The second boss is at the end of the base. You know, the that second level where you're running like straight forward into the base. And that was really cool back then, because there wasn't really anything that I remember that was that cool where I could shoot forward and run straight. I mean, it looked like shit, but it looked awesome back then. But anyways, getting to my point, I played the other day and I was killing it. Like, I had 4 lives by the time I got to this end of the second boss. And I had spread with rapid fire, and I was just ripping off shots, and he was shooting at me really fast, like way faster than I've ever seen him shoot at me before. And I was struggling when I played a little bit after that and noticed he wasn't shooting at me as quickly, because I just had the regular gun, I don't think with even rapid fire. So I really think there's something in the memory of this game, or something in the system, that drives it to be much more difficult if you're doing better or have better equipment, which Thanks for adding backup just in case we become good at the game and make it even more difficult. Oh, this guy's playing too good. We got to step it up against him. I guess there's no hard mode, so if they're playing better, might as well throw better enemies at them. So if the game's this hard in one player, it's got to be just as hard in two player, right? Nope, it's way harder. One player is okay compared to two player is, it's so difficult because first of all, you got to find someone that's decent at the game, which is almost impossible. Whenever I bust out the old games with a group of friends, there's never another Contra player in the group. I guess I have some pretty lame gaming friends, but never anyone that can even do anything. All they do is steal my damn lives. Even my brother's probably the best one, but he's a live thief too. He's not as bad as everybody else because they just are like, I'm just hitting A. I'm just tapping it. You know how it is, guys. If you're a good Contra player, you know the struggle of the life stealers. There's no one else as good as you, and they just take. It also brings, when you play two-player, it also brings another aspect of angled shooting. You can basically cover the map depending on who has what gun. And that's a whole nother aspect. Angled, you got to make sure that you really have your angled shots down from the upper level and angled shots up from the lower level and cover as much space as you can as you run through the map. Because remember, you got to go in sequence. You got to jump together. You got to move together, or else someone's going to get left behind or hit by just a stray bullet that's coming across the screen. And that segues me right into my next point. Is that a bullet? Yep. Probably one of the biggest struggles in the game. The bullets, especially the basic bitch bullet. And when I say the basic bitch bullet, the one little teeny pixel that they use for a damn bullet in this game. I know it's only shot by the grunts, but that bullet is so deadly, especially if it's shot in groups and then one is at like another angle. Do you notice that if you play this game? Two will come at you and then one will go high, or two will come at you and then the last one will go low. So if you're waiting to jump or deciding to jump late, that last one will get you. So you, again, brings me back to the first point all the time. You cannot rush. You need to be patient when you play the game. Learn the patterns of when people shoot, but then again, if you're starting to do well, I'm pretty sure the patterns just change and makes it harder. So there's a nice loop for you there. They do a pretty good job with making the bullets different from the different enemies, which is good. The blast radiuses on the different things kind of suck, though, because everyone is almost different, and they're pretty big. Some of those bombs that come up on the snow map or the snow level, their blast radius is just so big sometimes, and that you just don't pay attention. You have to be able to see your surroundings. You have to be able to see your surroundings. Jeez. You have to be able to look and see your surroundings. Use that peripheral vision while you're shooting, because my next point is that the game is basically half avoiding and half shooting, maybe even more avoiding. I'm going to be posting some clips this week of me playing the game, and I know I have no music. I have no sound. I can't figure it out. I know I feel like a dumbass saying that to the public here, but guys, this is me. I can't figure out my sound. I'm pretty sure I bought the wrong thing, okay? Then some of these software changes are making it impossible for me to record this. I'm figuring it out, all right? Some of my clips I'm going to be posting, you're going to notice that being able to move around is key. Knowing the patterns that the bosses, or not the bosses, or any enemies shoot at you. Know how high this motherfucker jumps. He jumps high. Trust me, you got to be able to jump over one of the enemies entirely, and I completely forgot that. The boss in level 6 is like a big robot. You got to jump him. Like literally, you just jump right over him, and I was dying because I'm like, there's no way I can jump over this guy. You forget how high this guy can jump. He's got some ups, for sure. But you got to be able to use those ups and maneuver in the air a lot with this game, and be able to avoid the bullets in the air, and be able to shoot at that enemy at the same time, while hopefully landing on some solid ground and not into a precipice. Oh, buy weapon upgrade. All the time. You got to know which weapon upgrades are what, and you got to know where they're coming from and when they're coming, because they're not sporadic. They come at the same time every map, so it's good to know and remember. But again, even knowing and remembering, they're still really hard to get because they're cruising sometimes. And I say bye-bye weapon upgrade because usually you can get a bullet on them, but then, boop, they pop straight down one of the bottomless pits. A lot of the times it's set up that way so well because they're flying back and forth or up and down and right over those holes, and you go to jump for one and you fall straight down with it. Or they even land in spots where you need to take a risk to be able to get it. I know the spread is located in a couple different booby traps in a few of the maps. So as if this game wasn't hard enough, all the upgrades and things that make the game easier are always flying over the bottomless pits and booby traps for you to get hit with your one life that you do have. These gun pops are actually a very good part of the game because they do make it much more difficult to make the game easier. They need to make it slightly difficult for you to get those upgrades. And to my next point, them coming out of nowhere and quickly makes things even more difficult. What I mean is, if you get really excited about these gun pops, and even if you have a good gun, so let's say you have spread with rapid fire and you're just flying through the map, flying through, you see a pickup coming, flying across the screen. You get too close to it and shoot it on accident, and you just pick that up on accident. All of a sudden, you got laser and you had spread. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be very careful about getting too excited about those gun pops that kind of come out of nowhere. They don't necessarily come out of nowhere, but if you're really getting into the game, you kind of start to forget when they're coming, especially if you have a good weapon. So if you're flying through with a weapon like spread, you're going to hit everything that's in your way. Waterfall level, I believe, is the third level where you're jumping up, and there's a lot of pops on the way up. If you're just jumping and shooting and not being patient, you might pick up a fire or a laser, and you're going to be real pissed off at yourself. Not that fire and laser are bad, but I mean, fire's kind of bad. I don't really understand the point of it. It looks okay. It looks cool, I guess, but it's just annoying when you got to shoot with it. And I mean, I like how it spins and it covers a lot of area. That's cool. That's what's cool about it. And I think that's probably the point now that I'm thinking about it. But laser can work because it's just of the ability to fly across the screen and destroy anything that's in its path. So that's pretty cool. But you got to learn how to shoot the laser without trying to rapid fire it and it just coming out the end of your gun. Anyway, let's get to my last point. Spawn kill loops. Let me give you a scenario. Does this sound familiar? So you're killing it. First level, you got an extra life. Going into the second level, beat the second level, you still have spread. Going into the third level, you're on waterfall. You're jumping up, you're killing it with spread, shooting up, everything's going down. You make one false move because you get a little cocky and you slip down a hole. Okay, that's fine. I lost my spread, but there's one coming up. I'm good. But you're so impatient, you're still holding that forward trigger. You're still holding forward on the D-pad without looking at where you're going to spawn. Likely, you're going to spawn straight back down that hole. Oh my gosh, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. And then likely you've died so fast and didn't notice really the first time that you might do it again. I've done it twice. You can't tell me you haven't. You fly straight down that hole. Sometimes you can't even hold back to land on a piece of land. Sometimes you just keep going straight down that spawn kill hole. There's been times where I've been stuck and there's nothing I can do. So for reals, that's a really stinky quality of this game, to not be able to actually spawn without dying for another try, even though you just want it all to be over at that point. So that is it. 8 stinky points about my favorite NES classic Contra. I'm sure a big fan favorite out there as well. So guys, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, on Spotify, on YouTube. Doesn't matter to me. I would really love to hear what you guys have to say about the show. I've done a few episodes now, so I'm starting to get a little bit of a collection. Just want to hear about it. I've got some great comments so far, and I know that there's some people out there that are listening that I haven't heard from yet. So let me know what you guys think. You can find me on Instagram at thisgamestinks1. I'm also on Twitter, thisgamestinks1, and both of those, that's the number 1 at the end there, guys. So let's review these points. You can't rush. It's a real tough game. You just might need up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A. Start. 2-player mode, exponentially more difficult than 1-player mode. Should I avoid or shoot? Nope, I gotta do both really well. Oh, bye, weapon upgrade. Where did that gun drop come from? Shitty spawn kill loops. Honestly, I've made 8 points here today, and I can say that this game is amazing. It's great. There's nothing else I could say. It doesn't stink at all. In fact, it made its way all the way through the stink-o-meter, but I'm going to still say that the game is fresh. If you haven't played it before, go play it now. Try it out, do the code, learn the levels, have fun. So that about does it for This Game Stinks this week. Again, I am your host, TC, each and every week, every Monday morning. Again, guys, like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think, let me know what games you guys want to hear on the show, and most importantly, just let me know how you guys are doing. Again, guys, I'm TC. Have a wonderful, fantastic week.